I think Washington kind of nailed it. Like, I think ironically, watching back last year where I thought CJ Stroud like arrived for me as much as a rookie can arrive was going to Cincinnati and out-dueling the guy that he kind of reminded me of in Joe Burrow, his LSU brethren. Okay. And now Joe, less than a year later, has to deal with the same thing with Jayden Daniels. As you've heard, we've teamed up with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all our picks, and we'll have special offers for you listeners each week. If y'all haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code GREENLIGHT, and you will get up to $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. 1, download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code GREENLIGHT. 2, deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. 3, you will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code GREENLIGHT when you sign up. Welcome to the pod. I am at the Inside the NFL studio. That's the Shield over my left shoulder. That's what I work for right now, the Shield. Thought I could get away. I still work for the Shield. And for all the great, found footage they have here, mic'd up, I'm really bummed I missed this. This is a tweet from I don't know who this is from, but you can look it up. This is from Dan Duggan. Dexter Lawrence called the coin toss. He says, tails never fails. It lands on heads. Dex goes, goddamn. That was probably the best. That's the best thing I heard all week. Yeah, tails never fails. It doesn't always work that way. Got the win anyways. Congrats to the G-Men. Need you this Thursday night. Wouldn't that be great if the evil empire starts 1-3? That'd be incredible.
That'd be great.
It'd be great for the Birds. But the Birds have a whole nother issue that we're going to talk about in a couple minutes. It's a spindly guy from LSU. It's like RG3 with longer legs and maybe a better arm. I like this kid.
And a flawless deep ball.
Flawless deep ball. Mr. Teardrop out there. Like he really does. They talk about some quarterbacks are passers and some are throwers, and you'd rather have a passer than a thrower. And some people are like, what does that mean? Well, it means that, if you're a thrower, you can just throw the ball really far. You can't vary speeds and that sort of thing. You can't take something off the intermediate balls like
Anthony Richardson.
Yes. Right now, a thrower. The guy in Washington is a passer. Shout out to the Hawks and Sports guys, the group text, which is like littered with long time, like tortured former Washington Redskins fans. Now they're Commanders fans. And Snyder's gone. You get the ownership right. Basketball. Isn't that crazy? This is a big L for football guys. You let a basketball guy fix like one of the biggest eyesores in the NFL. Like all it took was a basketball guy that's like, yeah, I know like analytics and shit. And I called Chris Mullen or somebody to like get advice. Who did he call, Matt? Didn't they call somebody? They
Bob Myers from
Bob Myers.
Yeah, and I'm one of those long-suffering Washington fans that you mentioned. Growing up as a fan of them, I eventually kind of abandoned them because I was like friends with you, so I wanted to like be a fan of the Rams. But I think it might be time to check back in.
I think it's time to check back in. I think dudes in the dude. You know what I thought last night when I finished watching that game, or 2 nights ago? Was that last night? No, it's 2 nights ago.
2 nights.
Yeah, they're all running together. When you're quitting this bullshit here, okay, I'm down to 3s. I've only had 3 milligrams of nicotine today. Like it all runs together. Yeah, seriously, golf clap for that. If you haven't tried doing this, it's not easy. But my first thought when I turned off that TV, hyperbole alert, put a little chyron under here, like exaggeration alert, but I might actually be. What was the parade route for the Washington Nationals? Because at some point,
I got it.
Yeah, tell us what it is.
The parade will begin on Constitution Avenue Northwest at 15th Street Northwest, proceed east along Constitution Avenue Northwest, and end on Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest at 3rd Street Northwest with a team rally.
Now you got to build a new stadium because this guy should not be playing in that dump. It's just this guy could completely turn this thing around. And I know it's one game, but if you've been paying attention to him, a lot of people liked him the best, right? And so, thought he was the most pro ready. Heck, it could be one of those situations where his ceiling is lower than Caleb's ceiling or whatever, what have you. I don't know. I tend to think this kid is pretty damn good. And those two guys are very different. But this guy is – we'll get to that game in a second. First off, we're talking about quarterbacks before we get to Jayden Daniels. Okay, sometimes taking the big swing works, right? Sometimes you find a Jayden Daniels, and who knows how it works out in the long run. We're going to break this game down in a second, what we saw from him. But if you're looking at it from a macro standpoint, guys, a lot's being made of, why do the offenses perform the way they're performing right now? And actually on Inside the NFL today, it was kind of funny. Some of the guys were taking aim at Dave Canales a little bit because after the game, he pointed out that Andy Dalton, as he's giving him the game ball, he's reading his stat line. He's like, he's the only quarterback in the NFL that has thrown for 300, 300 and
yeah, it was like 300 yards and 3 TDs.
I remember that one. I remember that one, a big fucking deal. All right. No, but kudos to Andy Dalton. Great for that team. I know they've been through a lot. The interesting thing about that game is the Raiders came on the scene last year as we knew them in December by way of, kicking New York's ass, kicking the living shit out of New York the week that AP got hired as interim coach. There's a big boost you get when a big change like that happens sometimes. And same thing with quarterbacks. So I think those vets were in a situation where they're like, hey, I'm tired of being talked down on by analysts like me saying hey, the situation's all fucked up. I never said there were trash players on the team, but I do think the organization is kind of it's willy-nilly a little bit is the vibe I get. I still contend that probably Dalton should have started the season if that's what he was going to look like. But overall, I think the bigger point is this is the ebb and the flow of an NFL season. It's not who you play, it's when you play them. And this was a bad week to play those guys, right? So we're talking about quarterbacks. We're talking about, we're talking about the state of the game today. We're talking about why Andy Dalton, a month into the season, is the headliner, right? He's had one start and he did what nobody else has done, including Mahomes and Allen, even though Allen to me is playing incredible. People are like, what's up with the game? We've done the too high thing. I think there's a lot to read into when you talk about, the way that college quarterbacks are prepped for the pro game now. We talk about shorter training camps. We talk about coverages, too high, dictating everything. And, I think if you can't run the ball into too high, and increasingly offenses are built in ways that running the ball is kind of faux pas. You get booed off the stage when you pay a running back. That's been kind of the thing the last 10 years. Zeke Elliott and the Cowboys did that, right? I don't think it's as simple as all those things. I don't think it's as simple as preseason. I don't think it's as simple as just, Breeze and Brady and Rodgers is still out there, but that whole crop, Rivers, Mannings, both of them. We were so lucky for so long to have those guys, and I do think there's a turnover effect. But I also think it's a simple fact of now today it's a coordinator league. I really do. When truly special players exit the building, and we still have some really good quarterbacks. I think the best 3-4 guys in the league are Hall of Fame candidates, right? You know who those guys are. We don't need to do this, but I think for everybody else, it's about context. I've made that point before, and I think the first month of this season proves that more than anything. And I think when you look back at the way football used to be played, there was a lot less variability in scheme offensively, right? You had your West Coast offense, but things were pro style, right? I'm not taking anything away from coordinators in the 90s, but what I am saying is now, and variation doesn't mean all the schemes are good, right? But it does mean there's a lot more variability in what your offensive scheme can be. And so I think you get a lot more variable outcomes, and it becomes less about players executing as it is what can you do with a retread? What can you do with a Sam Darnold? You know, everybody's taking a big swing. Caleb Williams, Bo Nix trying to hit a double, Reed. There's Jayden, and that looks like, ball was out over the plate and you hit it out of the park. But for a lot of teams, they might not have that luxury. And that goes back to the whole, like, every year we lament teams that seem to not have a plan at quarterback and they play themselves out of the draft lottery. Well, maybe that's the best thing to do. Build your program. And if you can time it up right, find a retread. I don't want to be the guy in the NFL today. I don't think if there are enough instances of people revamping guys' careers, Geno, Jared Goff, Derek Carr with a quarterback, with a coordinator this year and bringing him into New Orleans. Baker, Darnold, the very guy that's taken over the NFL, like he was seeing ghosts, right? Like it was spooky a couple years ago. He's a laughingstock of the league. Well, sometimes you got to wonder why he's a laughingstock of the league. And I think teams are starting to figure out that we don't always have to take a big swing. It is a coordinator league. If we have a coordinator, then let's go grab one of these distressed assets, man. That is the play now. Not saying you can't go get a Jayden. It has its risks. Chicago sold the farm to grab this guy, and I was told that's the best situation in football ever for a rookie quarterback. And 3 weeks into the season, we're like, oh, no, wait. Oh, yeah, every running back that plays in Philly is not who you think he is. Your offensive line's not what it was. Keenan Allen's already missed some games. Like Rome Odunze looks really good, but he's a rookie. And holy shit, it matters who you hire at coordinator. Because this guy, Shane Waldron's not off to a great start. Juxtaposed to Washington, and I think the quarterback has a lot to do with it there. But how can you sit there and watch that game last night or 2 nights ago and say that situation isn't pretty good too? I thought the offensive line did a great job. They were rotating tackles. They were blocking, Trey Hendrickson, who I think is a hell of a player. They were rotating tackles. Both guys were doing a good job. 2.86 time to pressure. Okay, so that's an indictment of the Bengals, but it's also an indictment of Cliff Kingsbury doing a good job. Okay, Cliff was the laughing stock with Kyler. Bad marriage, didn't work out. Takes two to tango. Same thing in Washington. You look at Jayden Daniels, and maybe people say he's making Cliff's career. But I think the marriage is working, at least early this season. The point I'm trying to make is, and I hope it's clear, is like, I don't want to buy the new car anymore. If I'm an NFL, owner, head coach, if I have one of these legit guys with a fucking pencil in his ear and, he's got all the schemes in his notebook, because this is a very scheme-driven league now, then I'm kicking the tires on a Geno. I'm kicking the tires on a Baker. I'm kicking the tires on a Sam Darnold, because what we've learned is context matters. It only took people, 100 years to realize this. And I think this great migration of quarterbacks, the great migration of QBs of the early 2020s and now into 2024. Yeah, remember when Geno lit it up in Seattle? Yeah, remember when Sam Darnold and Baker went out west and they revamped their whole way of doing things, and they worked with great play callers, took a breather, and then went to their respective destinations and lit it up. Okay, it's early, but I do think eventually we're going to look back at this and say, hey, like, something happened here where the league said, hey, I'd rather buy a used car. The sticker price on this thing's too high. Let somebody else, drive it off the lot. If there's an accident report, the Carfax, show me the Carfax. The Carfax is going to tell me that. I'm not paying as much for that thing, but I can get it into the body shop and drive this thing around like it's stolen. And a guy like Sam Darnold, it does feel like they stole that car. Like there's this guy's playing great. And yeah, he's had some moments where, he's in the grass the other day in the red zone and he's underhanding the ball to Aaron Jones. Don't do that. Don't end up like Will Levis. He has his moments where he damn near throws the ball backwards against the Niners and they survive it, right? If he can stay out of those moments and trust the guy with the headset, there's plenty in his body to make the throws he's making. That's what we all saw in you, man. And for all the high draft picks that never had a chance to prove that they had what Sam Darnold has, I feel bad, but it's a new era where we're looking at these guys and we're saying, hey, there's some pretty damn good play callers now. And this isn't even the old CBA when if you drafted a quarterback, it was over if he wasn't good. And you're still seeing teams be like, yeah, rather than try to maneuver to get into that top 5, our window is open. Let's make moves. Tampa, Minnesota, 2 teams that are going to have a chance to win their division. Seattle right now. San Francisco has survived this thing. Maybe it's starting to chip a little bit because of all the things that are going on, not having anything to do with the quarterback. But, you can say hey, amazing what they did finding Brock Purdy late. But then imagine if you don't take the swing on Trey Lance, where you could be. So I think more than ever, it's okay to think about sitting one out. It used to be just pick the guy. Here's another thing. Over the last 2 years, and we said this, who ended up being the stud last year? C.J. Stroud. Who looks like he's the stud right now? Jayden Daniels. Okay, it's early, and I thought Caleb Williams did a lot of good things last week. I was excited for that young man, the things that he put on tape, the toughness coming off of week 2. But guess what? It's going to be an uphill fucking battle. That's the way it is for quarterbacks that are picked high. And we thought Washington was going to be just a pedestrian team in the NFC East, and they look like a tough out and then some. Okay, so suffice to say, if you're going to pick in the top 5, you better draft a Jayden Daniels. Easier said than done.
How many NFL front offices do you think called Joe Shane's son after Monday's performance to offer him a job?
Yeah, seriously, give that guy a job. I think it was his nephew, wasn't it?
His son.
It was his son?
Yeah.
When your own flesh and blood is right, it's like when my dad's like, I don't know, should I pick the Cowboys or the Ravens? My dad listens to me, picks the Ravens, okay? Because he understands that his boy is crunching tape on the all-22s. Maybe Joe Shane's son deserves to be doing what Joe Shane's doing, because he was right on it. And the other thing that hurts so bad for the Giants out of that whole, if you're the Giants, I don't know what you got out of letting people into the building with the cameras, but that didn't work out well for you, because you have that clip and you have people talking about, Mara being in there it's not going to be good if he goes to Philly. It will not be good. He is our most popular player. Boy, would that suck if he went to Philly and carried the team through the first 3 weeks of the season. And he dropped the ball on 3rd down. He can still run for fucking mayor in that city right now. I mean, he blew the end of that Atlanta game, but he's such a great player and such a professional. It's palpable, the respect that he garners everywhere he goes, that this city, the city that's we'll give you the fucking hook quick. He survived that because everybody knows he's great. And he showed that 6 days later. Short week, great week to get over a mistake. The point I'm making, though, back to the Giants, we shouldn't even be talking about the damn Giants. You have to, if you're going in the top 5, you have to nail it at quarterback. And so I think Washington kind of nailed it. I think ironically, watching back last year where I thought C.J. Stroud arrived for me, as much as a rookie can arrive, was going to Cincinnati and out-dueling the guy that he kind of reminded me of in Joe Burrow, his LSU brethren, okay? And now Joe, less than a year later, has to deal with the same thing with Jayden Daniels. He goes in there. The Bengals are 0-2. Can I explain something to you at home? Going on the road in the NFL, and I've been on the road a lot where things went wrong, and usually it goes wrong early. It's part of the reason that if I'm on the road and I win the toss, I'm kicking. I'm kicking to start the game because nothing worse than getting stuffed on the 18, fielding a kickoff or going 3 and out backed up, and all of a sudden they catch a punt. The people never stop cheering. It's like they go to commercial, they come out of commercial. That feeling is it's like strangulation. You know what I mean? For a team. And to go into that building where Cincinnati's 0-2, their backs against the wall. You can say they're bad. They're a bad team. That is not a bad offense. The defense is not playing well right now, but you don't know what's going to happen when Jayden Daniels, how he's going to handle this spot. Maybe the guys in the building did, because when I talked to Zach Ertz before the season, he's like, bro, he's going to be so good, so quick. You know, and I didn't want to say that before the year because, you know, if I cite my source and people are like, oh, Zach Ertz was wrong. No, Zach's right. He's seen a lot of football. Like it's just for him to go out there, as I'm talking about, on the road, team back against the wall, Cincinnati, you're going to get their best. Because of the way the games were, I missed the first drive, okay, for Cincinnati. I had the Bengals because I figured they're going to get right. They'll figure it out. And I'm texting Nate like victory lapping like 3 minutes into the game. They go get 6. They figure this thing out because can Washington really score with them? For that rookie to take the field, to make those throws, the top on this place is about to fall off if you go 3 and out. I've been there. I've seen it. Prime time. The throw he made to Luke McCaffrey on 4th and 2, he just got out on the field. And here you are. You're like, it's not the game, but you go down 14-0. The gravity of throws like that and reads like that, for him to sit back there, just bouncing around back there, nice, easy. I'm not a quarterback, but I sure like the way he looks in the pocket. And he's just playing games with Pratt. He's patient because the guys are blocking for him. And it's 7-on-7 out there, and he looked like he was the guy that you paid admission to come see. And to go toe-to-toe with Joe like that and end up winning, the ball he threw to Noah Brown in the red zone should be illegal. It should be illegal to make that throw as a rookie. Like the throw with the game on the line where, and I said this to Nolan watching the tape the other night, I'm like, it was a stutter go. He had a free runner in his armpit. He had the poise to take the hit, and he's got the arm to teardrop that ball right where it needs to go. And for Terry McLaurin, listen, I know what it's like to feel like you're wasting your career, but not, he's a special player. Wasting your career, like wasting his career in one place. Like he's caught balls from the janitor. Like, if you've watched football, you've probably watched somebody that he caught balls from. It's like they're everywhere. They're all over the league. It's a turnstile. And you're like, this poor receiver who's basically 20, I don't know how old he is, but he was like 24 as a rookie. So he doesn't have the window that, 21-year-old cat has. Part of that's why he's so damn admirable. He's got those leadership traits. He's mature. But that sucks. The one position, more than any position in the league that's dependent upon another person, is wide receiver. And you're like, this guy's in a glass case of emotion. And he's never going to get out. But then this kid shows up, and I listen, like I told you, most memorable moments of the season so far in prime time for me. Never forget where I was when Xavier Worthy ran full speed with a football for the first time. I will never forget where I was. Okay, I was on the couch like I always am. Also, when Jayden Daniels ripped the Bengals' hearts out down the stretch of that football game, they couldn't give the ball back. It was like the first drive. The game's bookended with ballsy decisions, possessions. First drive, you got to score. They're going for it. That game could be 14-0. Late in the game, they give them the ball back. They punt. The way Joe was playing, the way the Bengals offense was playing, you're going to walk out of there with an L. And they knew that, whether it was 4th down, whether it was 3rd and 7, whatever it was, game on the line, nails. It's one game, but it confirms a lot of suspicions. It's not like this. It's not like Will Levis had this performance. Okay? It's not like you're like, oh, well, this doesn't make any fucking sense. How did he make this jump from being Will Levis to being Joe Burrow in one night? It's kind of scary for the NFC East. You know, if you're the Eagles, I'm an Eagles fan, coming out of that stadium Sunday night, you get some oysters, you hop on the plane, you fucking put your napkin in your shirt like a mobster, and Jalen Carter's back there watching the Cowboys. Saquon Barkley's watching the Cowboys. They're like, we got this shit, you know? But then a day later, you turn on TV and you're like, holy shit. I haven't seen a quarterback in the NFC East play that well this year. That's just real. It bothers you? Whatever. I'm pro Hurts. I think Dak's a great player. But that guy, what he did on Monday night, that was surgical. I'm surgical with this bitch, Jake. I mean, fuck, dude. It was unbelievable. So, it's just one game. Got to prove it to me again this week. I think they play the Cardinals. That's going to be a fun damn game. Also, something to track, guys. Go back and look at this. Maybe a little betting tip here. Teams that play the Lions do not typically perform well next week. Okay? Seriously, go back and look. What happened to the Rams the next week? Did that look like a team that was going to beat San Francisco, albeit with all those injuries on San Francisco's side, but the Rams have missed? Did that look like a team that was going to – there's a hangover when you play the Lions. I hope that's not coming for Arizona. I went back last night and I went through like 16, 17, 18 weeks. I think the majority of games, you know, the team that plays the Lions the next week, they struggle. So that's going to be a very interesting game. Again, it's the throws, it's the maturity, and it's the supporting cast. It looks a lot better than I thought it would look. And I bet the over-win total. Okay? But this looks like Coast City because it's not just Jayden Daniels trying to fucking run around and make a play. The offensive line played well. Eckler looks young. You know, McLaurin is McLaurin. Ertz is there. He's a security blanket. McCaffrey's getting some work. And the DBs on that team are competitive. Like, they're competing. They have some issues. Let me channel my inner swagger right now. I thought this was like, hey, listen. You know in the Truman Show when Jim Carrey's like, I fucking had it. And he's like, he's breaking the fourth wall, right? And he's like, hey, listen, man, this makes no sense. This is not real life. There was a clip of Swagoo the other day that I just thought was brilliant. It was amazing TV. I know that ESPN probably didn't mean for this to be great TV, but it was. There's a certain awareness of the ridiculousness of the context of what you're doing. That Swagoo, they're talking about Burrow. And, there's 4 boxes. I don't know if Stephen A is against Burrow. I don't know who, but I know that Shannon Sharp is going off about Burrow. Did he do enough to win? And Swagoo's like, yeah, I think he did enough to win. And eventually Swagoo is so distressed that he's got to get up and he walks off the desk. And this isn't theatric, I don't think, from him. I really think it was a Truman Show moment where he's like, have I worked in TV long enough that this is normal to me? That we're questioning the quarterback of a losing team who goes for 350 and 3 touchdowns. Whatever it was. I mean, that offense looked good.
324.
It's so funny because Swagoo's off to the side and Shannon's just, and I like Shannon, but come on. And Swagoo's off to the side and they actually have to the light is dim over there because it's not the set. And they actually have to, my favorite part is the lighting as he starts to talk again from the corner of the room. And he's like, guys. He just looks so dejected. He's like, I cannot believe I picked this job. I'm not putting words in his mouth, but I'm kind of he goes, I don't want to live in a world where 325 yards and 3 touchdowns is not enough to win. No turnovers. Like, you telling me that's not enough to win? And, he turns around on Shannon and he's like, well, let me ask you this. And he reads some guy's stat line who probably won a game this weekend playing poorly, said, is that enough to win? And Shannon doesn't answer the question. So I just wanted to shout out Swagoo, who's really good at this. And also, that was the most relatable moment of TV, if you are in sports media, of all time. I ain't taking the cheese on doing the Burrow thing. Okay, the guy's been to the Super Bowl. Okay, it's one of the reasons I give Jalen Hurts a lot of the benefit of the doubt sometimes. Okay, and I think anybody that watches ball knows that Joe's a damn good quarterback. This is a team that starts slow. I can't figure out what it is. Maybe, Taylor needs like a fucking training camp consultant. Like, what is he doing wrong in training camp that has these guys coming out of the gates playing so poorly? They also lose Trent Brown. They're both down both their tackles defensively, which makes a big difference because it looked like nobody could win a one-on-one. And the backers, like Pratt, had a tough night. And yeah, Cam Taylor-Britt, I get a kick out of his, like, that guy needs to coach ball when he finishes. Like, he just seems like an NFL lifer. And, we could all throw tomatoes at him because, a couple weeks in a row he kind of had to eat his words. But I have no problem with a guy talking a little shit and then having to own up to it after the game. And I thought he owned up to it really well. He was like, listen, I didn't mean it as a slight that they're a college offense. Okay. I'm not telling you what to think here. He goes, that guy played great and they got us. And, that's the way it goes in the NFL. You just happen to be there the night that Jayden Daniels was born in front of the whole country, and they got the better of you. This is ironically the best the Bengals offense has played in September in some time. So I'm not making a claim. I don't know where this goes from here for the Bengals, but shit, they got their work cut out for them. The only saving grace for them is that the Ravens have struggled, but boy, are the Steelers. The Steelers are playing their kind of football right now. And I think another exciting thing for look at their schedule. The Steelers, people say their schedule gets tougher. I know it does, but like, what game is not winnable for a team that plays this way with this defense? I don't see any juggernauts this year. Okay. We're going to talk about the Buffalo Bills, who look like a damn juggernaut, winning on Monday night at home 37-10. That's ugly. Was it 47-10 or 37-10? I turned it off. I didn't even see Mac Jones. It felt like 177,000-10. I like, there's bad, and then there's the bottom falling out, like in real time. And it's crazy that for Jacksonville, the dam broke on Monday night. Thank God that Jayden Daniels was playing football Monday night, because I think a lot of people would have seen the whole damn thing, and it was hideous. Hideous. 47-10. That's insane. Jacksonville is, the moment of truth for an NFL team comes, at various points of the game, usually later than early, right? Moment of truth for Jacksonville was like 2 possessions in. It was like, oh, they're playing for the game here. How do you go on the road and do that? I understand you're a bad football team right now, but play to your, I don't know what your strength is. Do something to mitigate the fucking ceiling caving in. Like that to me is just awful. And defensively, and I like Nielsen, but they go on the road to play this stud, Josh Allen. I don't even know what to call him. QB, he might be QB1 right now. Okay, we talked about this because I said he's QB2 right now because I'm answering an argument that's just been raging on, a bullshit argument. Who's the second best quarterback in the league over the last couple of years? If the guy who's number one is Patrick Mahomes, which I think, like, from a career standpoint, he's competing with one guy, in my opinion, the way his career is going. But he hasn't played perfect. Atlanta, he was tell you that he missed some throws. Like they're working some stuff out. This guy, Josh Allen, who has been QB2, is now playing like QB1 this year. And Rich Eisen tried to press me on his show the other day. He's like, it's my boy Rich, but he's like, so Chris, are the Buffalo Bills the best team in the AFC? I'm like, Rich, my kids haven't even shopped for Halloween costumes. Like the kids haven't even picked out an outfit for Halloween. Like it's week 3, it's week 4. You're not going to get me to say that the Bills are the best team in the AFC. How many times last year would somebody have had to eat crow for saying that the Ravens were the best team in the AFC? Because you got too trigger happy trying to crown somebody. And Josh would tell you it does no good being the best team in the AFC in September. And he knows it does no good being the best quarterback in the world in September. He wants to be the best quarterback in the world in December, in January. And I got to tell you, the way this offense is operating, he's going to have an opportunity to be that. Okay? A lot has to happen defensively. They've done a great job of plugging holes and, making sure, whoever's out there in uniform. DeMar Hamlin had a pick the other night. Awesome. Didn't know a clone could do that. It's amazing. You got this clone for this guy, and they taught him how to play post safety. Like, that's pretty amazing. Sean McDermott deserves a fucking raise, huh?
It's good team building.
It's good team building. Incredible. But more than anything, I just think people miss this. People worried about the Bills this year. They're like, oh, Diggs is gone. It's overly simplistic view of football to think that one guy is going to make or break an offense. Okay? Not to mention the place he left before, and I think Diggs is a great player, and he's going to help a lot in Houston. But the place he left in Minnesota is no worse off. Part of that's because Philly thumbed their nose at Justin Jefferson and pulled that Maserati into the carport down there in Philly in Jalen Reagor. But the point is, one guy doesn't make or break a team. Not on defense, not on offense. Some guys can be the straw that stirs the drink. But offensively, if you got a quarterback like Josh Allen, and I said this, the window is never closed. The window is never closed. And people need to start giving him his respect and his due because he has kept this window open. And you know what else they did? They went through all the bullshit in the middle of last year. Like, that is maybe the most important point that I think people are missing is you look around the league right now, okay, whether it's, Baltimore trying to figure out their identity offensively. They add Derrick Henry. Let's figure out how to use him. We're working it out with this group, whether it's, San Francisco dealing with everything, the attrition that they've dealt with this year already in training camp. You got Christian McCaffrey going to Germany. Like, that's not necessarily good, holdouts, the whole thing. Guy gets shot. Like, there's so much going on. Okay. Look around the league. The Lions, they haven't looked quite the same. I think they're going to be just fine, but they haven't looked quite the same. And they've got injuries on defense and that sort of thing. But when you look at the offenses, the elite offenses that you expect, the best quarterbacks, I think scoring's down because a lot of people are figuring things out. And Buffalo has an advantage because they did this last year. They went through they ripped the Band-Aid off on the fly, and they still almost got there.
And your boy Shakir has been awesome. You talked to Josh Allen about that before the season. I was like, who are they talking about?
He's one of my favorite players, one of my favorite players on Madden. Even though they took out the zig route, he's still I just put him on a corner. It's just too easy with this guy. And the fact that Joe Brady, this is the key. You make the transition last year, you nail the coordinator. Look what one coordinator made one of the best football players on the planet look like. Look what the other coordinator did. Context matters, right? It's not like Josh was trying to play bad football. Coordinator matters. Okay, so Ken Dorsey takes a hike, and now Joe Brady's entering the picture, and they changed who they were on the fly. They're running the offense through a top 5 pass-catching tight end, a really good slot player, an exciting young player that he compared to Michael Thomas in his body control, a guy who can go get gadgets, and Curtis Samuel and James Cook, who came on. And when you add to the fact that like a team like Jacksonville comes out the other night, like, we're going to play man. Okay. Like, okay. That took 10 minutes, dude, of real time for me to say, like, don't, like, let's not do this anymore. The motion in that offense to begin the game was like an onslaught. It was like, okay, motherfucker, you want to play man? We'll see how long this lasts. The motion that Khalil Shakir went on fourth down was like maniacal. Orbit, psych.
That corner just kept running.
I think they're doing really good stuff. It's a coordinator league. It's still a quarterback league. If you got one of those quarterbacks, if you have a coordinator and the quarterback like Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, Joe Brady seems to be, I'm not comparing him to Andy Reid, but he seems to be a guy that's working well with Josh. And they ripped the Band-Aid off midway last year. So that makes a big difference. You know, timing is everything. And so now they go. And I think Buffalo should be very happy with where they are. Listen, I get nostalgic sometimes watching football. A lot of times it's like a guy like Jalen Carter makes me want to suit back up, and I'd be on the sideline headbutting that guy, getting like, let's go, man. I'd love to play with a guy like Max Crosby. Like, you know, like you watch players that you're like, man, it'd be fun to play with those guys. And you watch a scene sometimes and you're like, I miss football. Like a lot of times it's the scene. And Monday night watching that game, the scene in Buffalo, those guys are having the time of their lives right now. They put on the Killers. They put on the Killers, Mr. Brightside, which is a song that for years I didn't know what it was about, who sang it, but I just knew like when I was popped at the bar, usually after 1 a.m., I knew that song. And it's just like that is the bar anthem for people my age. You know, and some guy on Twitter pointed this out, and I hate some guy him, but I quote tweeted him, gave him cred. He's right. This is this generation's Sweet Caroline, and boy, is it a lot fucking better than that creepy ass song. That kind of sucks when that song. Some people are going to be like, "Hey, fuck you," but when that song comes on, I don't get excited. It's like, what do I do? When that song, Mr. Brightside, comes on, and those guys are. The bar nights in Buffalo have to be incredible. Buffalo bars for those guys right now. Just keep your head down, guys. Keep the eyes on the prize. Go out and get popped. Have a good time. But just know it'd be nothing like the parade. That's got to be an amazing town to play football in. And also, like, this is like a tragedy here. Mitch Morse is a great player. He's had a great career. He's a guy I respect immensely. He's a guy that we were worried about leaving Buffalo. And we talked about that with Josh. As a former player and as a guy who changed teams a couple times, when you see your old team turning it around, boy, that's weird, right? And it's not like they're turning things around per se, because they're there every year. But Mitch Morse, who spent most of his career in Buffalo, dreaming about that parade, he goes down to Jacksonville. We think he's going to help them get to the next level, because we all thought Jacksonville might be better this year. I think we all thought that, which makes it even more hard to reconcile with. But after the game, having to dap up your old coach, love you, coach, saw that. It's heartbreaking for me, because the guy's getting back on a plane to go down to Jacksonville and wonder who's getting fired. Like, that's the kind of vibe in the building in Jacksonville. Okay, and Doug's my old coach. I love the guy. I owe him so much. He never gave me a fucking day off, but I still love him. Doug is a good football coach. This team is not playing like they're well coached so right now. You know, and I think part of it might be like the quarterback and him aren't a great fit. I don't know. But, like, you just paid the guy. I know it's the organization, and he probably outlasts everybody in the building, right? Because now you got him for a while. I could call into question. I said, like, do you have to pay him? And everybody's like, yeah, you got to pay him. I'm like, okay. Well, now things are even more complicated. So when Shad Khan, comes out and he's talking about do you have that tweet? Can you read me that tweet? Somebody pull that Shad Khan.
Make no mistake, this is the best team assembled by the Jacksonville Jaguars ever. best players, best coaches, but most importantly, let's prove it by winning now.
Yeah, they forgot the most important part. I listen, the Blake Bortles led Jaguars were hell on wheels, dude. You know? So miss me with that. This is the best team ever because they aren't playing like it, not even close. And I think for this team, if you haven't been in an NFL building that feels like it's on fire, this one's on fire. You know, and that sucks, man. I hate that for Coach Peterson, but you know, he might have to make some hard decisions. You know, the way to save your job is to back the bus up over somebody who's calling plays. And I think that bus is, I just heard it start. And then when you hear the beep, 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 you know what's happening. And it sucks. And it's part of the NFL. And I hope that he has a year like 2018 where we started 4-6 and we looked terrible and we looked undisciplined. Carson got hurt. I don't hope that Lawrence gets hurt. But the point is, like, we finished strong. You know, Foles came in, we simplified things, more RPOs, like more quick game. And I think more than anything, though, team believed. And I don't see a belief in this team right now. It's hard to believe. To go on the road like that, that ain't belief. And get beat 47-10. I don't care how much better that team is. Because that defense is down a bunch of guys. And they're playing like they're swarming here, by the way. Last thing, Minnesota officially – the Purple Haze defense. And I don't mean, listen, I don't know, it's not official. I saw an internet poll today. So I'm taking that as like official. A lot of people are telling me I said they need to be Purple Haze. And people are like, well, what is it? Prince. It's not Jimi Hendrix, it's Prince. Like, I didn't know Jimi Hendrix is fucking from Seattle and Prince is from Minneapolis. Okay. I watched the Chappelle show. But here's the deal. Purple Rain is cool. But like, what does that mean? Purple Haze means it fits this defensive scheme. You don't know. The disguises are crazy. It's hazy out there. That's what I'm saying. So with all due respect, I just think it makes a lot of sense. You don't have to adopt it, but that internet poll is evidence that you might have found a new nickname for your defense. We can't do that. Prince is from Minnesota. I'm like, oh, holy shit. By the way, that defense is playing great. We had to break them down on Inside the NFL today. You're going to enjoy watching me and Coach Belichick up at the big board breaking down the Vikings pressures. And it's not just about B Flow and his exotic pressures, but it's also about the players, man. You know, I talked about this the other day. They have nailed it. What a great organization. We went and visited them in camp. Shout out to those guys. They've nailed the free agent signings. They've also nailed it in that these are smart players. You watch this defense play. It's Van Ginkel doing the little things, wrapping tight on a loop. It's the guy. It's Cashman getting a pick. It's like the exact aiming point, the right coaching point. It's good leverage. I didn't play DB, but when I watch the All-22 and I watch these guys, like, it's clear they're doing the right things with leverage and being in the right places and alignment and details. And so it's not just having a complicated ass scheme. It's having the guys, as we talked about, veterans that can sit in meetings, and B-Flow's a great communicator. I had coaches, when you ask them questions, they were afraid to answer them because they didn't want to be the one that when you tell the coordinator or the head coach, like, why'd you fuck that up? Well, that's how my coach told me to play it. So you would get a lot of like, double talk. And I used to be the annoying guy that would ask every question because I didn't want to get fucked over on something. And Flo was the guy that could answer every question. And he's a communicator, former player. Those guys are obviously keyed in on the details. So good job. And it helps having a guy like Metellus, who literally, I showed this play today. They are double mugged up in the A-gap, getting to Tampa 2 with this guy. For those of you at home, that means they're playing cover 2 with basically a post safety who's sitting just underneath where those two safeties are, those two half-field players are. Well, now it becomes like basically 3 deep. And the way he gets there is incredible. Like the fact that you have him mugged up in the A-gap, the versatility that allows you to show different looks and actually get to coverages that you couldn't even imagine that you'd be in. Like, so it's not just B-Flow. He deserves a lot of credit, but it's also the players who are nailing the details and who are good football players. Grenard out there, he was kicking guys' asses, man. It was like Roadhouse, or bodies flying everywhere. I mean, he was just checking whoop ass. Same thing with all their guys up front. I really like this group, and I like the fact they play from ahead. That's the big key. Bill pointed this out today. He has 16 sacks this year. I think most of them, he barely trailed. Like if they can set the, and that's the thing with Green Bay this week. Green Bay can't get down and expect to win this game. That's going to be a hell of a game. Guys, anything from the mailbag machine before I leave and go to my flight?
No crazy questions. There was one that wanted to know of the NFL teams that you didn't play for, which would you go back for right now and play on?
Oh, right now?
Right now. If you woke up and you were like, hot damn, I'm feeling good.
The Buffalo Bills. I've always wanted to play for the Buffalo Bills. The bar nights, I'd be like the oldest guy in the bar, but I'd be like, yeah, I've always wanted to come to Bar Bill after a win. Fucking Jim Kelly's probably in there. So the Bills for sure. Definitely not the Jags. Sorry, Doug. Not that you need me. Golly. Definitely not the Browns. The Vikings look fun, but I got to tell you, I'm not smart enough to do all that. It's just too many calls.
Trash Elder Millennial wants to know, and we've talked about this, but the trade target to solve the Dolphins QB situation, who would you send? Who would you grab if you were Miami?
Carson Wentz. Not going to happen, but I would look at Carson Wentz. Or fuck it, I'd go. And here's the thing is like, hey, you can like basically pick David Tepper's pockets on Bryce Young now. Like you've already said, like he's not part of the future, and he might play again in the whole thing, but that is not the way. Like if you really wanted to get something for him, you just sat him for a little bit and said like, oh, he's part of the future for us. Say all the right things. Those two games are on tape now. So like people are going to be like, give me all your money, then give me the little guy. You know what I mean? It's just going to be easy to snag that guy. I think they got to look at like a solution because this is a team that you're going to lose if you don't start winning games. And Mike's too good a coach. I felt for him because of what he was working with, the ceiling on the last guy. And he might come back this year, and I hope he's okay. But I really feel for him in this situation because I think he's a really good coach. I want to see this guy have a chance to finish this year out the right way.